of Summer League 103-94 over the Cleveland Cavaliers. No Immanuel Quickley, but the Knicks backcourt, Alex, still showing out in this one.
Yeah, Deuce McBride and Quentin Grimes both had fantastic games in this one. Obi Toppin, not too shabby himself, but we've kind of just come to expect that. So we'll talk about that and the performances of some other guys next on Locked On Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
And I think we see Willis coming out. There he comes.
You are Locked On Knicks, and today's episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Visit rockauto.com and tell them Locked On sent you. Once again, I'm Gavin Shaw, a play-by-play broadcaster gearing up for high school football season, and he is Alex, well, much more importantly, the editor-in-chief of the Strickland, the greatest Knicks website.
Open walkie-talkie.
And we are back, Game 5 of Summer League. As Alex and I found out, we genuinely weren't sure. The Knicks' second-to-last game of Summer League. They play one final consolation game tonight against the Atlanta Hawks. No playoffs this year in Summer League. There will just be a championship game between the Celtics and the Kings, the teams with the two best records and the two best point differentials. But Alex, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the Knicks. 103-94 win over the Cavs. A little bit of a lackluster game, I think, just in terms of entertainment value compared to the previous ones, just because no Immanuel Quickley for the Knicks and the Cavs without Isaac Okoro and perhaps more importantly, Evan Mobley. So you didn't really get to see the stars on either side. I feel like the Knicks without Immanuel Quickley may be a little bit lifeless because of it, but it didn't stop two big performances from their two rookies that are remaining, two of their first three picks that are remaining. No shots at Jericho Sims with Rokas Jokubaitis traveling back to Spain, but Miles McBride, Quentin Grimes combining for over 50 in this one. Alex, I'll leave it up to you. What do you want to start with?
Yeah, I feel like I should start with Grimes because I've been saying since the start of Summer League, and then I even said with Ariel the other night, I thought that he was going to have a 25-point game at some point, and now this is like my perfect opportunity to victory lap and be like, the shot came around. Look, he did have a 25-point game. In fact, he scored 28. But, I actually think, because you just mentioned entertainment value, I think Deuce McBride brought the most entertainment value in this game. I mean, he hit a point in, I think it was the third quarter, where he was so hot that he just started asking for the ball and just basically taunting his defender and, just hitting threes in his face. Like, I think he did that like 2 or 3 possessions in a row, or there was this one stretch where I don't have a stat in front of me, but by my memory.
Yeah, it was late second quarter, Alex. He made 3 in a row.
Yes, and also he and Grimes just for stretches of this game were just passing off back and forth of like, okay, you score, I score, you score, I score. And it was awesome. It was so much fun. And I mean, it says a lot that given how good Obi Toppin's been in Summer League, that they completely outshone him in this game. But yeah, I mean, I really liked Deuce's game. I think that he kind of took the challenge to be like the starting point guard in this one, with, as you mentioned, Jokubaitis gone, which it was fun with him, actually. I was kind of sad that he had to go because I really thought he was just coming into his own, but he'll give me an excuse to pull up some Euro basketball highlights this year. But with him out and Quickley out, it kind of all fell on Deuce to handle the ball in this one because there just isn't really another point guard on this team. They had Davis play a little bit, whose first name honestly is escaping me. He was playing point guard for a stretch and actually notched 5 assists, which was pretty good, which matched Deuce's total. But I mean, Deuce was the guy that they had out there most of the time running point, and I thought he did a pretty good job. He wasn't perfect. There was a couple turnovers turnovers that were not so great, but they were mostly early in the game. And beyond that, I think he kind of found his footing and, you know, really found himself not just as a scorer, but also as, you know, a guy that was running the offense and sort of, you know, finding people in their spots and all that. So I was pretty impressed with his performance overall. I would say it's tough to call it his best one because that 6 of 6 from 3 game was really, really impressive, and his defense in that one was so insane too. Not to say that his defense was bad in this game. I would probably call it his second best summer outing so far, but you know, that's saying something considering his best one was like enough to talk us into him being like a future, you know, extremely effective role player. So I really like this game a lot. Is basically what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I'm with you. It felt like obviously not from a passing perspective and all-around control of the game perspective, but from a scoring perspective, it felt like a Chris Paul type of game. Like, you know those games where Chris Paul, and you look at his stats, like, wait, did he have over 100% true shooting? Like, it was sort of like that, where he only took the shots that he wanted to take, right? Nothing was out of rhythm. Nothing was out of control. He had those 2 back-to-back threes, and then the third one was just nuts. It was the 25-foot pull-up. But it looked like he was feeling it the whole way. It wasn't a force by any means. It wasn't even really a heat check. He was just like, yeah, I'm probably going to make this. I'm really feeling good right now. And then just, I mean, how patient he was early in the game. Like, the Knicks' very first bucket, late in the shot clock, he takes a screen from Jericho Sims, dribbles around it, just nails a long 3. And it feels like, I don't know, he is such a... I always pull out these absurd names when talking about players who will ultimately be role guys in the NBA. But again, it did feel like Chris Paul, Kevin Durant in the mid-range, where his shot is just easy, and he feels like, I mean, Chris Middleton's another guy. He just feels like it's going to go in, and you can see the confidence on his stroke. And I think he is going to be the rare player in the modern NBA where an open shot from 16 to 20 feet is genuinely a good look for him, and he hits them at a rate where you can say, yeah, keep taking them. That's not really a bad shot. The other thing I loved from McBride in this game is just the decision making. I don't think he's a great passer. He's kind of similar to Quickly, where someone almost has to be open for him to throw the pass versus him throwing someone open or creating off the dribble, manipulating a defense into someone being open. But he's a very willing passer, and he's a smart passer in that even though, again, he can't really create those looks with his personal gravity, he can anticipate them, and he knows when guys are going to break open, and he's always looking for the throw ahead down the court. That was honestly my favorite thing about Lonzo Ball's game coming out of UCLA, that he was always head up, always looking to check it ahead. I think it's a quality that fits exceptionally well with Obi Toppin. We saw a number of times. Obi didn't convert all of them, but had a near insane alley-oop to Obi at one point. Did convert another alley-oop to Obi, threw it ahead to Obi a couple of times, but Obi got a seal of the court. I really, really enjoyed that willingness for him to look ahead. And then, of course, on the final times, wing 3, another player, when McBride drove in, drew the defense, and hit Grimes on a good shot. Then, of course, looped his way into the left wing 3 to end it. And that final 3 for McBride, and this is the last thing I'll say, we'll take our first break, just showed off the confidence he has from distance. And obviously, he was a spectacular shooter at West Virginia statistically. But there were some questions just because of the ball he shot it out, the way he got his shots at West Virginia. Would that shot immediately translate to the NBA? I'm pretty confident.
A couple of overnight
in terms of his
maintenance jobs.
Just because we're already seeing him get to it off the dribble, and look really confident and comfortable doing so. With that, let's take our first break, and for the first time ever, tell you about a brand new sponsor we got, and that is Sweat Plug. You know, maybe these guys in Vegas where it's well over 100 degrees this whole week, they're in and out of the gym at all times. They could probably use some Sweat Plug. And there are some things in life that just aren't fun to talk about. One of them is excessive sweating. You guys know when sweating through your shirts for no reason, it's embarrassing, right? Some of you may not know this. Me, like a lot of our other locked on hosts, apparently, I've personally dealt with this. And it's not really like when I'm wearing like a t-shirt or doing something athletic. That's when I don't really mind it. It's hard when I'm doing a broadcast, and no matter what the weather is, I'm usually wearing
I'm going to ask for as much money as I can, obviously. One of the jobs is in Camarillo, the other is in Simi Valley.
I am sweating through this shirt, and it's just terrific. It's not even a nerve thing. It's just way too hot. And now use Sweatblock anti-perspirant wipes. Sweatblock is stronger and more effective than most clinical anti-perspirants. You simply apply it at night before bedtime, go to bed. The next morning you wake up, wash, and go out throughout your day without worrying about sweat. Guaranteed. I know this will sound a little too good to be true, but I literally only have to use Sweatblock once or twice a week, and it keeps me dry the entire time. No more pitting out. No more picking my shirts based on which will hide sweat better. If you or someone you love is dealing with this, you have to go check out Sweatblock. Get it today.
I really wish I could find a job like yours where I could just stay home and do it.
Or at Amazon and CVS. And then we have to tell you about one of our other favorites, Indeed. If Indeed gets you a job interview, you can use some Sweatblock so you don't sweat your way through the interview. But we got to talk about it. General managers ask questions to find the right players, like do they have ice in their veins? When you're hiring, you can use Indeed assessment to make sure you find candidates with the skills you need by asking similar questions. When hiring gets hard, you need Indeed, the job site that makes hiring incredibly simple. Just to track, interview, and hire. In fact, with Indeed, you can do all of your hiring in one place. Even interview. With Indeed assessments, you choose from 135 skill tests to help make sure you're finding applications for people with the skills you need. According to Talent Nest, Indeed delivers 4 times more hires than all other job sites combined. What a stat. Join more than 3 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Get started right now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/lock. That's right, a $75 credit at Indeed.com/lock. Indeed.com/lock. Offer valid through September 30th. Terms and conditions apply. And with that, Alex, we are back on Locked On Knicks. I gave my diatribe on Miles McBride. Unless you have any final thoughts on him, I want to jump it over to Quentin Grimes, and to your point, did have the best game of the summer league.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Grimes, I think, just compounded a lot of what Ariel and I were talking about the other day, right? Like, when I was talking to Ariel, he said, you know, he hadn't really looked into these guys too deeply before.
Yeah, that's why I like yours. Yours doesn't seem like you contact customers
I said, you
too
know, it's
often.
funny, it didn't really, ultimately it didn't matter with Grimes as far as we were concerned how much homework we did prior to the draft on guys, because he wasn't even on either of our radar, rightly or wrongly. So we hadn't really seen any of them. But, or at least I hadn't. I guess I can't speak for you there, but he was very not on either of our radar as far as guys we cover on this show at least. And, you know, so Ariel was saying once he had dove into the film a bit, you know, that Grimes is a bit more than just a catch and shoot guy. Like, he's not, I hate to keep using this like it's a bad thing, because it does downplay the year that he had, where he did legitimately have a really good year, but he's not Reggie Bullock with the ball in his hands. You know, he's not just a guy that can only catch and shoot and take like 2 dribbles before he has to hand it off. He seems pretty comfortable with the ball in his hands, with getting to the rim, you know, with being, in theory, a 3-level scorer.
Yeah, that's the only reason why I don't have you try to get me in, because I don't want to have to buy a desktop.
3-level scorer, he wouldn't have gone to the 25th pick in the draft, wouldn't have been called reach, you know, at that spot or anything like that. But I do think that based off what we've seen these last 2 games, I think I can say pretty confidently, if his 3-point shot comes along, the rest of his game.
Yeah, that's why I don't have you try to put me on, because I don't want to have to buy a desktop.
Everything else, you know, not on the defensive end. He does seem to, you know, and this is very much a Knicks trade at this point. No matter what, it doesn't seem like he lets anything get to him on the defensive end. Like, if his offense is off, it doesn't affect his defense, which is not always the case with players. But he seems pretty unflappable in that regard. And the defense was really good in this game, just like it's been the entire summer league, I think. So I don't know if we have to touch on that too much. But the offense, you know, he gets the 3 going, and then once that happens, and once his defender has to treat it like a real option,
Yeah, I'm going to keep
So,
searching and applying for more
I
jobs
don't
too.
actually remember if we saw any pull-up twos from him, like pull-up mid-range, but I think that is something that if he doesn't do it a ton, he could definitely develop into. And yeah, I've just been loving what I see with him, with the ball in his hands and, with trying to score in a variety of different ways. So I don't know how you feel about that, Gavin. I think the pure amount of variety in his game in this one was great to see for me, and the fact that he had this sort of we've sort of seen every one of the young Knicks have this moment at various points during the summer league, but he had his moment of get me the ball, I'm scoring, I'm the alpha here today. And I like that we've seen that from every single one of them, because these guys, even Obi and Quickly, are gonna need to really have some cojones on them this year if they want to try to take some playing time away from the veterans on this team, because this team has turned into a very veteran-heavy team where it's going to be hard for these guys to crack the rotation. I think all four of the main players in the summer league, that being Quickly, Toppin, McBride, and Grimes, I think every single one of them has shown that it's going to be really hard to keep them out of the rotation this year if they can play as well as they have. And with Grimes, after the first two games, that wasn't really the case. But after these, or maybe even you could say the first three games, but after these last two, I know that we shouldn't make huge sweeping conclusions about summer league, but I'm pretty much ready to say it's going to be hard to keep him out of the rotation this year, because I think he's going to figure it out, and he's going to be like a Reggie Bullock that can put the ball on the floor. And if we learned anything from how Julius Randle played last year and everything, that's going to be an extremely valuable archetype to this team, having a guy that can be a spot-up shooter, but can also have the ability to, if he gets say a Trae Young stranded on him on the perimeter, he'll be able to do something with that rather than just having them pass out and not be able to capitalize.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure from there with Grimes. I've been negative on him the whole time. I joked on Twitter that he's going to be my OB this year, where he's the guy that I'm down on until he proves me otherwise. And OB, to his credit, to some extent, did that last season and continues to do that. But I have a feeling, I think it'll come down initially to McBride or Grimes in their, and I know obviously they play different positions, but just in terms of the lineups that Tibbs puts out there, and maybe there's one where he's going smaller and having McBride defend a bigger player versus getting Grimes in there at a more size-appropriate matchup. I have a feeling McBride is just going to prove to be too good to keep off the court, and Grimes is maybe going to take an injury for him to get involved. But I don't want to start this on a negative note, because I, like you, obviously loved this game from Quentin Grimes. I missed the Pistons game because I was away for the weekend, so maybe he started showing flashes of this. But to me, it was a revelation how aggressive he was going to the rim, and you could tell that. I mean, there was an article that Mark Berman wrote, and they kept mentioning in the broadcast all the different Associated Knicks that have been talking to him. Like we heard Allen Houston has been giving him pointers. Penny Hardaway apparently worked him out a couple of times, and I'm surprised he has time for that when he's about to add Jalen Duren and potentially Amani Bates to his team, and have one of the better last-second recruiting classes ever. But shout out to Penny Hardaway. He's apparently giving Quentin Grimes tips. Shout out to Reggie Bullock, who's no longer a Knicks, but apparently still took it on himself to mentor Quentin Grimes. So that doesn't tell you a whole lot about Reggie Bullock and what this hashtag Knicks culture meant to him last season. Should be a pretty good point in favor of that one. But all these guys clearly have been driving up to Quentin Grimes. Hey man, you gotta look. You were drafted in the first round for a reason. The Knicks invested in you over a number of nominally higher upside options for a reason. You got to go out there and prove it. You got to start getting to the rim. And Grimes was tough enough to take that point of constructive criticism and really immediately incorporate it into his game. And it was exciting to see. And I think maybe some of that flexibility came from quickly being out and having that dearth of options, and them saying, all right, it's either it's you or it's no one. And we saw from the very beginning of the game him projecting a screen from Jericho Sims, getting into the lane, in semi-transition, taking a bump and getting a hit for an and one. I think the word to describe it would be decisive. Anytime there was an opening, he just flat out took it. Sometimes he overdid it, like there was a point where he had an open three and instead he tried to drive sort of a half-hearted closeout and it got him in trouble. But I like that his mentality was just to put his head down, and that aggression translated to behind the arc where he got up 14 threes, made 6 of them, and to me that's Grimes' greatest strength right now. It's the ability to shoot from 3 at volume without sacrificing accuracy or getting fatigued as the game goes on. That's a valuable skill set in the modern NBA, and if he can continue to hit at a really high rate, it'll translate really well. My question with his mid-range game is how his release works. It's sort of a different story, but the same story as Immanuel Quickley, and that Quickley has that issue in the mid-range, I think just because he starts his shot low. Grimes' shot is super high, but because of that, it's pretty elongated, and I think that he's going to, especially against NBA defenders, have some difficulties getting it off with consistency. We saw him have one really nice one where he absolutely shook a Cavs defender and sort of dribbled his way into a really, really nice left elbow jump shot. But for him to get that off in the NBA consistently, Alex, I just think he's going to have to speed up the release a little bit. I don't know if it necessarily has to be lower. Maybe it's just starting a shot higher. Maybe it's having a little bit less of a dip in his shot. I'm sure there are people who are more qualified from a mechanics perspective to talk about it. I think it works really well off of handoffs from 3 because he can go into it and get to a real rhythm. And even off the dribble, it looks really, really smooth. Rewatching some of his highlights as we're talking. But I'm fascinated to see if that comes into play right away and if he can consistently get it off against NBA length and athleticism. Because in Summer League, it feels like he's doing it on pretty tight margins. It'll be fascinating to see how it translates. But Alex, speaking of translating, can you translate to me, preferably in English? What do I need to do? Or where should I go if I want to get parts to repair my car? That one was a little bit of a stretch, but...
Yeah, that was you maybe pushed it a tiny bit, but let me translate these copy points for you real quick. If you need to fix your car, you need to head to Rock Auto, and that is one of our sponsors for this episode. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why would you want to endure the pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning and wait for that person behind the counter to order the part that's going to make them the most money and it is going to just be what they carry at the price that they want to sell it to you at, which, by the way, is probably going to be more, actually no, it's not probably, it's definitely going to be more than what they would sell to a mechanic for, because mechanics get special deals at these stores and you don't. You get raked over the coals and made to pay tons and tons of money at these brick and mortar auto parts stores. You can save time and money by just opening up rockauto.com on your computer, your phone, your tablet, whatever, and using that instead. Why would you want to spend 30%, 50%, or even sometimes 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or a car dealership? For example, if you need to fix the family van, you can get a Honda Odyssey fuel pump for $353 from a chain store, just $216 from rockauto.com. Rock Auto is a family business. They've been serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years, so you know they have your best interests in mind to make sure that you get the best price on the parts you need for your car. Speaking of the parts you need, go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Maybe there's a job you've been thinking about doing, maybe once the weather calms down just a little bit, which it seems to have over the last day or so. So maybe now's a good time. Place that order from Rock Auto. Go do something on your car before it gets too hot again. If you do, write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. And let's assume maybe you do go out in the blistering heat and fix your car. That's probably going to tire you out quite a bit more. You could replenish yourself with some Built Bars after that. See, this is what we do. We tie the subjects together of these advertisements. Did you know that Built Bar has so many delicious flavors? There really is something for everyone, and they all taste fantastic. I've seen a couple people recently on Twitter even adding me and saying, hey, I finally pulled the trigger and got some Built Bars. Be like the people on Twitter and get some Built Bars for yourself. I promise they are really good. I have been eating them for like well over a year now. I try to stay pretty active. I go to the gym, I do weights and stuff, and When I get home, I always look forward to a Built Bar for that big punch of protein. You already know my favorites are coconut and cookies and cream. Definitely two of the best flavors there. And all Built Bars, though, whatever your favorite flavors are, have 17 to 18 grams of protein, calories ranging from just 130 to 180, only 4 to 5 grams of sugar, and 4 to 5 grams of net carbs. So they're all tasty, all healthy, and all come in amazing flavors coated in chocolate. So definitely get some Built Bars for yourself. Go to Built.com and use promo code LOCKED15 and you will get 15% off your order. Again, use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. All right, yeah, so Gavin, before we're back. The ads are over. If you skipped through that, stop skipping. But we're through to the final stretch run of the show here. I wanted to say with Grimes, I think I don't have quite as many reservations about his pull-up shooting. I don't know that he's necessarily going to be like a Deuce, where he can get into the mid-range and just pull that off in traffic quite as well, because that seems to be kind of like Deuce's calling card is, you know, he can pull up from anywhere on the court and get off a clean shot, which is a really, really valuable skill to have. I think that Grimes is going to be more essentially like if he pump fakes his defender to death on the perimeter and there's not an easy avenue for him to just take a sidestep three, I think that he could pretty easily take like 2-3 steps in, and unless the center like helps out greatly to him in the mid-range, or someone else helps like big time to him in the mid-range, he should be able to pull up from there and make those shots, I think. And I think even though his releases, I do agree, it seems like a time, like maybe just a smidge slow and methodical, and he does have a pretty high release and a pretty high motion. Like he doesn't do a ton below his face with his shooting motion, at least from what I've seen. So I think he should be all right in that respect, because the other thing is that he's displayed, I think, enough as a passer at this point. You mentioned you didn't see the Detroit game on Friday night. That was where I think he had the best pass of his summer league so far. He made this really nice drive where he got all the way in and got baseline, and then made this wraparound pass around like 2 defenders to find Wayne Selden, who then didn't make the layup but got fouled because he was passing it to Wayne Selden, not one of the good players on the Knicks. But if that was Obi Toppin or something, it might have actually been a foul. But you know, I think that he's displayed a few times during the summer league that he has passing ability that goes beyond just like being able to make a swing pass. I think that he can legitimately, you know, if he has the ball in his hands and he's going off the dribble, he can make something happen if he sees someone streaking to the hoop or whatever while he's getting closed out on defense. So that also adds to my confidence in his like pull-up ability, is that I think that he would know the difference of if he can get a shot off or not, and be able to make it enough to keep it a threat. And then if teams started, you know, really helping on him and trying to prevent that shot, I think that he has the wherewithal to make the right pass out of that. But, you know, again, it might be reading too much in the summer league against, well, I guess with the Pistons, they play basically the full-strength team, but playing against a not full-strength Cavs summer league team, missing their 2 best players, I mean, maybe there's only so much you take out of it, but I think that he did a pretty good job to kind of, at least for me, put to bed some of the, I don't know if I would call it fears, because I didn't really have any. I basically came into this Quentin Grimes experience with an open mind, because I hadn't watched a lot of him prior to summer league here. And basically what I've come out with is I think he has the potential to be more than just a standard 3D is basically where I'm at with him. I think that he could be a guy that mostly does 3D, which is great. I mean, that's a $10 million plus per year archetype in the NBA. But I think that he has the potential to offer you a little more as far as not getting stranded on the perimeter. Like I think I said the other day, my best case scenario for him, and maybe, you know, feel free to maybe tell me who you think, you know, out of current NBA players, but this might just be thinking of immediately like what the Knicks just ran into, but I think my best case scenario for him is Bogdanovic on the Hawks, which I have to specify because there's 2 Bogdanoviches, but Bogdanovic on the Hawks, I think that he could potentially end up that level of player where his bread and butter is catch and shoot threes, but you can't disrespect him and assume that he can't beat you off the dribble or run a quick pick and roll or whatever else that he would need to do to free himself up if he gets covered tight on the perimeter. And also with that high release point, I can see a world where once he kind of fine-tunes things, gets used to the NBA and whatever, I think that he could get that shot off real quick after a while, because everything seems pretty repeatable, and it's a high release, so you have to really, really close on him to have a shot at like blocking that shot. So I think that he potentially has that in him if he hits his peak, and that's a pretty exciting proposition to me, to have a guy that could potentially end up as good as Bogdanovic at some point, even if it is I don't even know what percentage I would put on him landing on that outcome at that point, but I think the shades are there at least.
Yeah, interesting. I don't really see the creativity from him that Bogdanovic has. To me, the ceiling would be Danny Green, which is really, really good. Danny Green was a ridiculous Ray Allen shot away from maybe winning a Finals MVP that one year, so that wouldn't be too shabby. But for him to get there, he's going to have to continue to get more athletic, because I think Danny Green, especially his prime, and you saw more defensively than offensively, but was a really good athlete.